y'all so much for having me. I actually do not do speaking engagements anymore. I retired probably 2018, 2019, because my oldest son is 16 years old. And so I need to be in the home, and I don't want to miss a single game. And even though you can be paid thousands of dollars, I sat down and I was like, you know what? Would I rather $5,000 than being at my son's game, seeing him do something that I'll never get to see done again? And it was in 2019 that the Lord shifted my business to where he told me a plan that I could be home but yet still take care of my family. And then 6 months later, the pandemic happened. And none of us knew that was coming. And when I looked, everybody, Tony, what you doing? You know, how's everything going? How's business going? 2020, you're not traveling, you can't speak. I say, well, my business up 400% because it was a God move. But when the brother called me, I talked to him, we FaceTime, I need to look at him, I need to feel his spirit. I said, I don't do panels. I said, I don't collaborate because I don't know how people live behind closed doors. I said, all I know is how I live. And even with my books that's published by top 5 publishers, meaning one of the biggest publishers in the world, they say, Tony, we need stamps on the back of the book. We need people to, I asked them a question. I say, let me ask you a question. I say 25 years ago, it would have been amazing to have Bill Cosby give me a stamp, right? They say, okay, Tony, we get what you're saying. So I say, I'm going to publish this book, and I don't need man's stamp. I don't need a single blurb on the back of it. I don't need a forward. I'm going with God. And so when I talked to the young man, it hit my heart that he even cared to create platforms like this where we can come and we can talk about love and relationships. And the reason why I didn't require that it be 2,000 people in a big arena, because I realized I'm one person. And me being one person coming from a town of 5,000 people. But yet when God changed my life and I started to share my message, I looked up on Facebook one day and it said that you're reaching 20 million people a week. They had the insights that they show you. And then every week it would say 20 million people have viewed your post. The quote he said, he don't even know it. That's my quote. About when you are, what you're doing is so loud I can't hear what you're saying. The Lord gave me a quote one day and it said, I can't hear you, show me what you're talking about. And I went into this season because I'm an introvert. I grew up basically a mute. Walked with my head down, frown, didn't talk to nobody. I only spoke in athletics, football and basketball. And I was #1 in football and basketball my whole life. Went to college, played football in college, but I didn't talk. So me being a speaker today, it's only God. And when I got started, nobody was doing this. Every name that you see, when you go online, every name you see that is a relationship coach, not one of them existed. When I wrote that book at 22 years old in 2007, the only other people that would speak on relationships would be the pastors when they're preaching a sermon. But that's just a sermon in February. Then they go on back to the rest of the Bible. 2009, the radio host wrote a book telling y'all to act like a lady, think like a man. That made this popular. That made this popular. I had already been in the trenches making no money for 2 years. My teaching, the 3-month rule, showed up in that book called The 90-Day Rule. I had published it 2 years before, but my book had been mentioned on their radio show 3 times before that book came out. So the ghostwriter had heard of that, and she put the concept in the book. But the concept, the way it was told to y'all, made you think that on day 91, you open your legs. Now that you could sleep with somebody because you done went to 91 days. That wasn't the intent of the content. What I meant by that is you got to watch somebody for a minimum of 3 months before you even consider being with them. And then you evaluate them and you make a decision. And then you evaluate them every 3 months because you are the CEO of your life. And you may have seen that quote that says, today, evaluate the people in your life. Then promote, demote, or terminate because you are the CEO of your life. And God sent me to this space to where I was writing 17 original quotes a day. Every hour on the hour, I was on Twitter, and every hour I would analyze my spirit. And I would say, what is the Lord saying to me right now? And I would take the gift of poetry that he gave me, and I would put it into the form of a quote. It started to go viral after Alicia Keys started following me, and she shared one of those quotes. Next thing you know, a gentleman came to me when I was 27 years old. I had been in the trenches since 22. He said, Tony, what is it going to take for you to go to the next level? I said, I got to get off this job for 1 year to live fully in my purpose, and I'll never have to work for man again. He said, how much you make a year? I said, $20,000. He said, I'll give you $20,000 for 20% of a business. I said, you got a deal. I said, you know what? Let's make it 35,000. He said, I'll give you $35,000 for 35%. I asked my homeboy, I asked my dad, I asked my wife. They say, yeah, you giving 35% of zero. So you might as well take that deal. I took that deal. A little while later, me and that same partner did a 7-figure deal, a $1.1 million deal. With that $1.1 million, I bought a $600,000 house, and it was probably 2015. It looked like a little palace. He told me it was a $2 million house. He said, Tony, if you don't buy it, I'm going to buy it. And he does real estate. And then I bought me a Maserati. I had to act like a Negro now. So I went and got me a Maserati. So here I am. I did a business deal that had nothing to do with love and relationships. It was a film company called Gaskins Productions. And we produced documentaries, and we went around the country producing documentaries. But when the young black men online saw me talking about love and relationships with a Maserati symbol behind me, they thought it's money in that. Let me be a relationship coach. Now here come a flood of single relationship coaches. 2012 through 2014, 2015, here come the flood. 2015, I retired from talking about relationships. I said, I can't do it because there's too many fakes in the space. And I sat down, I started talking about business and entrepreneurship. And then people started popping up, and there was all these wrong messages. And I talked to my wife, and she said, if you don't accept the call that God has on your life, the devil gonna send somebody to replace you. And I looked on Instagram, because I hate social media. I looked on Instagram, I didn't have Instagram. And one of the young men who had come as a single relationship coach, I had met him in person in Las Vegas. And he talked to me. I was out there for the NBA because I had been working with the NBA since I was 26 years old. He said, man, I could sleep with whoever I want to sleep with because I'm single. I said, wow. I said, this is what these women listening to and clapping for. A man who is using this word to get women on their back. I went and I talked to my wife about it. At that time, I was not on Instagram, and he had 400,000 followers on Instagram. My wife had me make an Instagram account. In less than maybe a year, I had caught him and passed him. And my wife said, you see that? When you call to it, God gonna show you. So see, right now today, I'm gonna tell you this could be a whole lot more simple than what we're making it. It could be a lot more simple than what we're making it. But the thing about it is we have gotten so far removed from God, and we done got so into ourselves that everybody want to be served. Men want to be served. Women want to be served. Men want this woman who God has not created. And women want this man who God has not created. I just got into it with one of my clients the other day. She talking about my man have to have a strong hairline. I'm like, I say, listen, there is no such thing. If a man over 30, that hairline finna start to do something. And I say the only men with a real strong hairline, they did not grow in high school. They growing now later. I said they were 5 foot tall in high school. They was 90 pounds, and that's why their hairline is so strong, because their puberty hit late. I say for the rest of us, these corners start to go back. I say he either gonna have corners dipping or the middle gonna start to get light. She said, Tony, so you mean to tell me I got to take that off my list? I'm like, what are you talking about? A hairline? So you single because of a hairline? Another lady told me, well, my man got to love classical music. You single because of music? I say a man gets to know those things through you. When I met my wife, I only wore Dickies shorts, G-Unit tank tops, cowboy belt with Reebok Classics. I had 6 gold teeth, 4 on the top, 2 on the bottom, 2 cell phones, fake jewelry. Now I wear Golden Goose, tennis shoes, and all this other stuff. I eat sushi now. I eat asparagus now, mushrooms and olives. I only ate fried chicken at McDonald's when I met her. My wife took me to Europe, and we spent 6 weeks in Europe. See, that's what you do together. But see, I'm going to share something with you that we really don't pay attention to. And I'm going to read this with you, and be patient with me. Be patient with the Word of God. Because we're not patient with the Word of God. We don't even read the Word of God. I grew up the son of a pastor. My dad was a pastor for 14 years of my life, from the age of 7 to 21. And I remember one time I said, the Bible say, mother may have, father may have, but blessed is the child that hath their own. And somebody say, that's a song. I said, I thought that was a Bible scripture this whole time. Because I always heard that. Then I thought it came out the Bible, and I was quoting my mom and daddy. And that's how we do with the Bible. We don't even read the Bible. And then when we read it, we don't want to hear what it got to say. But I've been really pondering on this. Because if you've ever met an athlete at your high school, at your college, you know that that's a different type of lifestyle. And a lot comes with it. So by the age of 21, I had already been with what I guesstimated over 100 women. And I was being selective. I was being selective. You could easily sleep with 3 different women in one day with no money. With no money. Broke. Yeah, ladies. And then y'all be in here and I be talking to you, and then I be on the phone with you. Tony, I'm so sorry. I've been watching you for 5 years, but I got on my back. And I've been having sex. And I'm like, what am I talking for? So here I was, broke, and was able to sleep around. So imagine what a man with money could do. because no women had self-esteem because no fathers were teaching their daughters how to love themselves. So I realized, I heard somebody say, one hand washes the other and both hands wash the face. That's the only quote I heard that I don't feel like I wrote it. I say, man, that's a good quote right there. So y'all know I literally have over 30,000 original quotes online. And that's why I done fell out with a lot of speakers, because they be running around plagiarizing. And I done had to check them. And I said, listen, it ain't about me wanting the credit. It's about I had to go through the mess to get the message. So get the message out of your mess and leave my mess alone. Now see, listen, let me tell you what this says right here. Now we could go through the whole chapter, but it really comes, Ephesians 5, verse 21 is where it really cranks up. And it says, this is under spirit-guided relationships. And this is from the New Living Translation. And further, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Now, see, God talked to the women first in here, but we're going to bring it together. And this is a curse word today. For wives, this means submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For a husband is the head of his wife, as Christ is the head of the church. He is the Savior of his body, the church. As the church submits to Christ, so you wives should submit to your husbands in everything. For husbands, this means love your wives, just as Christ loved the church. He gave up his life for her to make her holy and clean, washed by the cleansing of God's word. He did this to present her to himself as a glorious church without spot or wrinkle or any other blemish. Instead, she will be holy and without fault. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. For a man who loves his wife actually shows love for himself. No one hates his own body, but feeds and cares for it, just as Christ cares for the church, and we are members of his body. As the scriptures say, a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. This is a great mystery, but it is an illustration of the way Christ and the church are one. So again, I say, each man must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Now see, that right there make everything so simple. But what do we hear online? We hear online the complete opposite. We hear men saying, well, what is a woman doing for me other than having sex and cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids and supporting me? I'm like, what else is there? And so what I'm supposed to do? And I'm making all the money and I'm paying the bills. And then a lot of women online coming out and saying, well, he got to make $250,000 a year. And he got to make this, and he got to do this, and he got to provide this. And so now we have these stipulations that have nothing to do with God. And we look at our relationships, and everybody say a relationship is a business deal. We hear it all the time, but I want y'all to really think about what you're saying. Because what you say, your mind believes. So when you call a relationship a business deal, how many times Donald Trump done filed bankruptcy? When business go bad, you dissolve the company. When business go bad, you file bankruptcy. When you fall out with a partner on a contract, you breach the contract. See, love is not a business deal. A relationship is not a business deal. It's a covenant. And a covenant is greater than a contract. So people say, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. No, that's a covenant under God. So the Lord hit me one day because I was feeling entitled because this message of entitlement started to go around. And you had these men online and they had this entitlement of a woman got to do this, a woman got to do that. So I'm looking and I'm like, man, I'm making 7 figures. And I'm like, if I'm making 7 figures, she need to be doing 7 figures worth of cooking and cleaning and sex. I'm like, hold on now, this ain't adding up. And here this spirit that's going across, it hit me too. That's how I knew how powerful it was. That this demonic spirit over relationships to cause division. And then the Lord brought me back to Ephesians 5. And in Ephesians 5, where it said, husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church. I said, hold on now. I said, hold on. Lord, you say Christ loved the church. This is the greatest sacrifice known to man. He came and gave his life. He died on the cross. So you're saying be gentle, be loving, be forgiving, be compassionate, be understanding. And then God say, did the church love Christ first, or did Christ love the church? So what that means is a man is to lead in love. Not meaning lead the way, but be the first one to love. Because if Christ sacrificed for the church, the man should sacrifice for his woman. But see, then, on the flip side, it said, wives, love, submit unto your husbands as unto the Lord. But see, here's the thing. The reason why submission is a curse word today, because men submitting to God is a curse word. Men today are calling themselves God, and they mean it. So if you think you are God, you're not going to submit to somebody who holds life and death in his hand if you think you are God. And when you think you are God, you think your woman is your servant. But see, when you understand that you have to lead in love, and you have to submit first, and you have to serve, now a woman wants to reciprocate that love. So see, when I was trying to control and dominate and dictate, it was ruining everything. Because I had to learn that a relationship with leadership is not dictatorship. Is service. So when I started to serve my wife, and I started looking to present her blemish and spot free, as Ephesians 5 says, she reciprocated that love. And I'm going to tell you, that love was so powerful, it was so strong. Even to this day, I get tired of it. I be like, calm down. I'm like, man, she playing all day. I'm like, oh my goodness. But then I think about it, she happy. She at peace. So that's why I got to keep getting these wedges and keep getting played with and keep getting messed with. Sometimes I have to start an argument to make her mad so she'll leave me alone. But I'm like, that's what love is. But see, we in this society, and I'm going to tell you, you got to be very careful. You got to be very careful that you guard your eyes and your ears. Because what's going to go viral are the messages that Satan has set in place, and the messengers are going to be handsome, and they're going to be beautiful, and they're going to be so loud, and it's going to go so viral, and you're going to look and you're going to question your entire existence. But see, when we go back to the word, and I'm going to tell you, we have to start loving the way Christ loves, but we got to look at a person the way God looks at a person. So I was talking to a young man, 6 or 7 figure young man, and he was telling me the woman that he likes. And I said, well, she 5'9". You 5'6". A 5'6" woman want a man that's 6 foot or taller. What you think a 5'9" woman want? So he's single to this day at 40 years old because he wants something that's out of his league. He wants his preferences, not realizing she got preferences too. And that money ain't enough for her to change her preferences. So I told the young lady, and she said, boy, too old. So he also older than her. So I went to tell him, listen, you too old or you too short. So now you thought this money, you thought it's just going to all be about money. But she also got men that's the height and the money, but ain't got the character. So that's why she's single. So see, when you judge somebody and you allow their character to be their currency, then you'll realize it's a lot of rich people that's broke. And it's a lot of broke people that's rich. And so all the time I'm talking to men and women every day. And I'm serving. And I'm spending one-on-one time, an hour at a time. And I'm on the phone 3 hours to 6 hours a day trying to help people in their relationship. And what I keep hearing is, well, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And when I ask them, well, do you do this? No, I don't do that. Or do you? No, I don't do that. So I'm praying to God to send me somebody, but then I'm not looking at those somebodies the way God look at them. So they coming, and then the next thing what I'm hearing is, well, I don't feel that spark. But see, really what that spark is lust. It's sexual chemistry that you're looking for, but from a place of lust. But when you look at the character of a person and say, can I build with this person? Can I get to know this person? See, what I learned in marriage, in 16 years of marriage, is that sex is a plus, not a priority. But it's being taught that it's a priority. But to be honest with you, is once you have kids, and your kids go to moving around, and your kids ripping and running, even as a man, I don't be feeling like doing nothing. Let alone how tired my wife be. And I had to be real with myself. I had to be real with myself as a man. And I asked myself, I said, you know what? What is this thing that we so obsessed with? It's fulfilling lust. Sex is fulfilling lust. See, making love is conversation. When you make love to the mind and you have stimulating conversation and you spend quality time and you hugging and you kissing, sex is a downgrade when you have real love. But the reason why nobody knows that is because 99.9% of people never experience true love. Because we're building on lust. Because when you come in, the first thing you have is lust. And this is what I call the 4 levels of love. You have lust, and with lust, people then go from lust. The second level would be like. The third level would be love. And then the fourth level would be self-love. But see, we oftentimes say you got to love yourself before you love somebody else. It's not really true because it never happens. Because when you love yourself, you really don't want nobody else. When you love yourself, you like, do I even need a relationship? When you love yourself. Also, it really is not true because look what a mother does when she's tired for her child, when she's stressed, when she don't feel like getting up. She's loving somebody before she's loving herself. But see, what we do is we go from lust and then we skip like. And we jump right into the bed. So when you lusting and you got sexual chemistry and then you jump into the bed, now you go right to love and you don't even like the person. So now that you in love, quote unquote, and you don't like the person, now your relationship feels like hell on earth. And you giving of yourself and you loving this person. And then the next level, self-love. That's when you can love this person, but you love yourself enough that you'll walk away. You will walk away if they are not reciprocating the love. So if you loving the way Christ loved and they ain't loving the way Christ loved, that lets you know that that's not a kingdom union. So what I want you to do is when you go home today and you get on Instagram, you get on YouTube, start using those 3 dots in that top right-hand corner on those posts. When you look at a post, it's 3 little dots at the top. When you touch them 3 dots, or it might be at the bottom, a list of things going to pop up. One of them things going to say, see fewer posts like these. Every time you see an idiot talking, hit see fewer posts like these. Because we've heard death and life is in the power of the tongue. So everything we hear, it starts to shift us. And it was a man who was sitting in the dark. He was sitting in the dark and he was doing podcasts. And he had something spinning on his desk. And he used to be drinking Red Bulls. And I went in there and it was just a dark hole. And there was so many men being led by a feminine man who had not had a real example of a man in his life. And he told everybody, I've never had a real man in my life. But yet, how can somebody who've never met Jesus or even met a real man raise men? Because if you ain't raised by a real man, then at least you need to be brought up by Christ. But he didn't have Christ, nor did he have a real man. And he had millions of men buying into what he was saying. And guess what? 80 to 90% of what he said was true. 80 to 90% of what he said was true. Because the adversary emulates God. But that 10 to 20% will kill you. If I give you 90% water and 10% poison, you're going to die. So he would say a whole lot that was right, and it would bring you in. And then all these other men and women started saying it. Women started saying the same stuff. I said, oh, Lord. What's going on? See, the reason why Christ loved the church first, because a man has to sacrifice for his wife. Because if a wife loves a man first, we get complacent. If a woman shoot her shot, a man gonna be complacent. If a woman treat a man like a king, he gonna kick his feet up. But in order for a man to be a king, he got to be a servant. And if a servant is going to serve, he knows what it's like to be selfless. So when it's reciprocated, he can appreciate it. I did a message talking to that man without saying his name, because I know the adversary emulates God. So I know the men who sent by the devil follow men who are sent by God. They follow us like a shadow. They follow us like a shadow because they want to pick up on things that sound good and look good so that they could deceive those who they're trying to get. And I told them, I say, listen, I'm sending you a warning shot because now you have aligned yourself against God because you are denouncing Christianity and you are promoting fornication and adultery. You're telling a woman that because she's had a child, she can no longer be abstinent. That she can't change her life and choose not to sleep with a man until he marries her because she has made a mistake in the past and slept with a man before marriage and had a child. So now you're relegating her to being a second-class citizen. And you're laughing at her when she says she's a Christian. I say you have directly aligned yourself in opposition to Jesus Christ. And that's one thing you don't want to play with. If you don't want to believe in the Bible, don't speak on it. If you don't believe God, don't speak on them. Stay out the way. But when you start leading people away from Christ, now it's a price to pay. About 6 months later, that man died. And when I seen it happen, people was wanting me to rejoice. I wasn't happy. It was sad. It hurt. And I had tried to reach him and tried to send messages, and I kept sending the message, and people were sending it to him, and he started to tone it down a little bit, tone it down, and people started writing me, Tony, he listening, he toning it down. He getting a little more calm with the women when they come on the live. He talking a little softer. I say, listen, they sent me a video, and I say, he's still denouncing God. I say, that's dangerous. One thing I'll never do is play with God. Because once you experience his blessings, you fear his wrath. Once you know his presence, you fear his wrath. So listen to me. What God is doing right now, he is raising up a remnant that what applies to the world does not apply to the children of God. The standards and the preferences and all of the proclamation that the devil has his minions making does not apply to the children of God. What God said to you in the darkness, in your silence, in your isolation, it will come to pass. If he told you that there's a wife for you, if he told you that there's a husband for you, then you have to live the way Christ has instructed you to live. And what's for you will be for you. But see, if you keep doing what the world says do, you're going to get what the world gets. And you cannot mix the sacred with the profane. You can't have a little bit of leaven, because it'll leaven the whole lump. The small fox will spoil the vine. So you're going to have to purify. You're going to have to consecrate. And I'll tell you the truth. I don't have any friends. You know why I don't have any friends? Because when you consecrate your spirit, you go from being an eagle, you go from being a turkey to being an eagle. And when you ever seen an eagle in a flock? So I could sit and I could fellowship. I'll sit in fellowship, but it's hard for me to call a man a friend because Jesus stick closer than a brother. So what happens is when I stopped cheating, some people had to fall off. When I stopped clubbing, some people had to fall off. When I stopped selling drugs, some people had to fall off. When I stopped drinking, some people had to fall off. I never smoked, so people had to fall off. But see, guess what? It get a little deeper. Get a little deeper. I don't even curse. You know, every pastor I done spent time with curse. A curse word is a curse. A curse word is profanity. Christ is sacred. You can't mix the sacred with the profane. So you tell me a man that you know that don't curse. Don't say the A word. Don't say the D word. Don't say H-E-double-L. That's why I have to stand alone. That's why I have not been able. My best friend, who, when I call him best friend, great guy, faithful to his wife, still cursed like a sailor. So I can't take him everywhere. I can't be all up under him all the time because we putting different things in our spirit. But see, guess what? When you do different, you get different. And one thing that I did not ask for, I never prayed to God for anything material. Never asked for anything material. I asked for peace. I asked for safety. But guess what? The material, the money, all that became a byproduct. It started to chase me. After living righteous everything started to chase me. And every one of the guys that knew me, they said, Tony, how did you get this? How did you get that? How did you do this? I sold out to Christ. So what I'm telling you is, when you sell out, when you separate yourself, I posted a quote online, it went viral. The quote says, separation before elevation. You have to separate yourself in order to elevate yourself. And when you do that, what you're going to see is there's a top 0.1% that God has on this earth. And everything that he has promised comes to pass. But if you look like, sound like, smell like, walk like, and talk like the world, you remove yourself from the remnant of those blessings. So listen to me. I'm challenging you for the rest of this year to clean your life up. Clean that music up that you're listening to. Clean your social media feed up. Change what you're doing in the dark. I don't mean to be too graphic. I don't even touch myself. I don't watch porn. I don't masturbate. I don't gamble. I don't smoke. I don't get drunk. I don't curse. I don't club. See, when I consecrated my spirit, everything that God had for me came to me. And what God showed me is, if you come to the source, you don't need a resource. But see, we doing everything the world way. So when I went on Oprah and Tyra Banks, the publicist came to me and she said, I've been doing publicity for 20 years. How did you get on Oprah? She said, I have not got one of my clients on Oprah. I say, I went to Oprah.com and wrote in on the Contact Us page. She said, I charge $10,000 a month to get people on Oprah. And I said, I went to Oprah.com. Because that's what God will do when he call you and he send you. Thank y'all so much. God bless you.